Welcome to Revenue Architect Surgery. I'm Ralf Paschen, former CMO, GTM advisor, and someone who has spent more time than he would like watching deals that were supposed to close quietly disappear into procurement review. With me today, as always, is Arnaud Lagarde, former VP of Sales, former CRO, and the person who has had to call all the reps all the mornings after a signed LOI and explain that this is not a contract. So this show is not about celebrating wins. It is about pulling apart the decisions that looked right at the time and asking what was actually happening beneath the surface. Every episode, Arnaud and I take a real failure pattern we have seen inside B2B SaaS revenue teams, the kind that does not make it into the case study, and we do the surgery. No spin, no polished retrospectives, just a diagnosis. Today's episode is about what happens after the champion says yes. Hey guys, you're all happy, right? The title is the customer said yes, but the contract said something else. We're going to talk about the legal ambushes, the procurement expansions, the late stage buying group additions, especially in Europe. There's not one person make the decision that appear out of nowhere, and what enterprise selling discipline and all the frameworks defined for that actually requires to navigate them. Not as an exception to the process, as the process. Let's get into that. Arnaud, what's your take on this?
Well, I think sometimes just, selling the value to your customers, you have to state this, yeah? The customer has to understand why they want bound. But I think sometimes the definition is what is the customers. You might have a champion. He has his view of what is important, and he thinks, the business case is there, the value is there. So he's going to go and he's going to say to you, because, everybody likes, people say, yeah, that's fine. I'm good. We're going to get that done. And then, especially if you're like in enterprise, well, if you're an enterprise sale, you should know a little bit more that things are not maybe so simple, but,
let's take it for new people as well. Let's take it for new people as well, right?
Yeah. So, you go back to your boss, say, yes, it's done. We're good. I remember when I was like a young sales guy, so we had this deal, it was all done. And we go and see the procurement, my champion said, okay, he's going to help us, to organize that deal. So, okay, great. You should. There's no, usually you check these things, but everything is supposed to be simple. So anyway, and the first sentence start from the procurement. Let me explain how it works here. And here, okay, so it was supposed to be simple, but then you have this, let me explain how it works here. And then you say, okay, we have to go through a security reviews. We've got to make sure that the budget is in there. But I thought the budget was there. Well, the budget technically is here, but it has to be released. So we have to go and ask PMO to get their bits. And then you suddenly find out that the deals that you thought was about just formalizing a bit of ink on paper has got a whole lot of compliance and activities and yes, and I think that is sometimes the challenge that you have, that happens usually to more junior salespeople, which have probably sold through their enthusiasm with their champions. The champion was nice to them, and then suddenly you think you're there, and then you find out that there's another 8 months or 8 weeks or 3 months of activities that needs to happen. Mm-hmm. So we've seen we've seen all of this. In fact, if you listen to a lot of other podcasts, people will talk about multi-threading. You don't sell to one person, you sell to an organizations, and in order to sell to the organizations, you have to show and sell to everybody that could be involved in the buying process. And today, that number of people has increased a lot. Mm-hmm. So there is no simple deal anymore, I think.
It also depends on the size of the deal. But I think that already at VP level, they're not able to sign quickly a 35, 40K euros, not dollars, guys. We are still in Europe. It's not easy for them anymore, especially if the recession right now happening. But there's also two things which I think makes a lot of sense. First of all, yes, let me start. I was a young sales guy, so I'm here as a CMO, GTM advisor, but I did 10 years of sales. And my first thing I learned, and maybe there's some older people here, it was called Miller-Hyman, blue sheet. Okay, if you all think about MEDPIC and MEDIC and force management, command message, command whatever, pick and choose whatever you want, maybe also spiced or whatever is out there. Okay, Miller-Hyman was really a blue sheet, blueprint, bigger, a wallpaper you put on the wall, and you discussed it with your team, with pre-sales, sales leader, all that. You stand in front of that. You're doing the same thing. Champion, the kind of buyer, competitor, it's called gatekeeper, and so on. I was young. I was sitting in front of them. I did sales, but not in IT. And I was sitting there, so why do I need this? And the fun fact of that, it taught me a lot. And you need it. And already now, I have to think. I was going at the age of 28 years, so it's almost 30 years, okay, ago. And I didn't understand it. Why not just sell it? Okay. The point is, in enterprise sales, everybody thinks MEDIC, MEDPIC, everything. If you as a sales leader are not asking the hard questions to people, what's the procurement process? How long does it take typically? Because who knows it better than the champion? And you can ask your champion this question. If you're not asking the question, you will be surprised like hell, and your sales leader will press you on that. When is the deal closing, right? And two learnings on that. One learning, I didn't do that. One learning which I had with a German retailer. Funny enough, one of the European data sovereignty data centers in Europe right now. I was with my champions. It was a $1 million deal, something like that, roundabout. New deal, completely new, out of the dark. It was Novell at that time. So not really the shiny new tool. It was more the market leader perspective. Anyhow, I was sitting there and he told me, we have one procurement meeting. Good. I can tell you, I learned a lot for that because that procurement person did retail before. He bought soups, washing powder, and then he moved into IT procurement. And you ever meet somebody like this, you learn a lot because he's asking you for 36.75893.4%. Why he's doing that? Because all of these retail things run 10 numbers behind the comma. That's the margin. I said, guys, why can't I do it 37? So if you're doing 37 and I want a 37.15645, guys, I cannot put this in my contract. It doesn't work. I don't have any system that could cover that, right? So this negotiation was very funny because you're talking with somebody who's used to discuss a lot more than just a million typically, but discussing 10 numbers behind the comma. This is very funny. So that's the first thing. And so he was the right guy, but I was not prepared for that. And I didn't ask my champion, what do I run into? And he said, yeah, that's normal. I said, thank you. What an interesting meeting. So we planned an hour and I was there for 7 without getting any water, any cookies, anything. I get nothing. I could go for a bio break for 10 minutes. That's all we did. Anyhow, it was very interesting negotiation. And the second one, I lost the deal. And I can tell you, still talking about this, because 32, it's almost now. Again, I'm 56, so you can now count on it. It was an $8 million deal, formerly Mannes Mobilfunk, which is Vodafone Germany. And I lost the deal in the boardroom. I didn't lose the deal anyway before. And I didn't get the boardroom in place. I didn't get all the people behind the deal. I got 50 people. I talked with 50 people. There was one person I didn't know. It kicked the deal out. Okay?
You were upset.
Exactly. I was sitting in the airport. Sitting there, and said, you lose to another one. So which one? He told me, I said, they're not doing what we are doing. So they don't care. I said, good, great, thank you. I learned so much about this deal that didn't get everybody's attention on it and made a decision on, can I potentially lose it? I could not forecast it correctly. I was so clear, 95% closing because I get all the people, Miller-Hyman, blue sheet, but I didn't. And the fun fact is, I would find it out if I asked the champion a better question. afterwards. This is learning pieces afterwards. Ask more questions. Ask more. Who's the question is, who's the gray eminence behind this deal? That's the only question you have to ask for. Who's the gray eminence who can kill it? Okay? And that's something potentially not getting there, but who can help me to influence it? Okay? And that's the point. Something really big, and in enterprise business, you never know who says no.
Yeah, I think the challenge is sometimes, and I've seen that many times, even within the organization, they're not quite sure. They're not quite sure about the process, or maybe your champion, has buy a type of deal before, but not another type of deals. And today with technology, let's not forget that procurement are much more educated about technology and the risk and the
Compare
compliance.
it.
And when it comes to AI today, there's a lot of there's a whole new sets of selection and compliance criteria that is appearing. So you need to be careful about privacy. What data, how is your data protected? All of these are new complexities that we didn't have. Even 10 years ago we didn't have this.
Nope.
So from every year there's a new set of criteria. So you mentioned 50 people in a deal. Yes, now you have maybe 20 people that have got to tick that box, not just talking to them. They have to tick, they have to give the approval. And, and until that deal is signed, you still need to sell to every of them. So one of the risk is we feel that once we've explained to the champions and we've done the business case and the value is there, that's it. We've done that bit. We just need to do the other bit. But the people that sometimes arrive at different stage, they also need to be convinced that this is good for the companies and this is good for themselves.
Yeah.
And that they have no risk in putting their signature to it. So, you don't stop selling until the ink is dry on the contract. And that makes selling such a complicated job. I mean, the salesman is today a project manager of
Yes,
a
I would say
great
so.
quality. You need to understand risk, people, resources, security, regulations. You have to understand all of this. Now, 10 years ago, I didn't have a risk register on the deals. Now I've got a risk register on the deal. What are the risks, of these deals? What are, and this is why also it's very important to understand your ICP and to stick to your ICP in the first instance, because every organizations buy differently. You mentioned retail procurement. They understand the cost plus pricing methodology very well. And when you go to them and say the business value, there's a good procurement person will tell you, no. The business value is for him. I'm interested in market value because I can do this with, maybe I shouldn't train procurement people to do this, but I'm
I
interested.
thought about the whole episode was about, do I train now procurement people? I can tell you, I was exactly about that. We should not go too deep in that. Sorry, procurement guys, this is not for you.
But in the end, this is what it is. Yeah, they can buy different tools. Is the difference in tools makes a big difference in outcome? Maybe, maybe not. I think the people and the confidence make a difference. But from a procurement point of view, I can buy this, I can buy that. What's the cost? Is there a big difference in cost and a big difference in outcome? If there's a big difference in cost, I'm going to first try to do down, and maybe your procurement said to you, I think it should be 35% on top of the cost. We know that software cost is very difficult to calculate. So it makes it also very difficult sometimes to explain. So you can go in as you said, in a rabbit hole on this. But yes, I think, let's not forget that selling becomes a project management activities, and good sales guys now have to be very good project managers.
So let's say it this way, because I see we have to separate this. When we talk about enterprise, if you sell to the enterprise,
Yeah.
that's exactly the game. So
Mm-hmm.
first one, I would state, if it's PLG, something you can buy from the website, this is exactly the difference between a product user is the product buyer. That's a typical somebody who gives you a credit card.
Yeah.
You can find the money somehow. Maybe he's buying that privately. The other one, like a Claude, whatever, is a PLG approach. If you go in enterprise, it's a big difference. Maybe they should go more to the CFO, but anyhow, the point of enterprise selling is the product buyer is not the product user. The economic buyer and the technical buyer is a buyer. That's not a user. They're not using the product potentially. So let's say a CMO is buying our software, doesn't mean he uses it, the VP of marketing uses it, or the head of marketing, whatever you call him. He uses it, or she uses it. But the point is, that's not the buyer. That's a champion. That's an influencer. That's somebody who can bring you up in this level, and the CEO makes some decision based on the amount of money. If the amount of money is, now it comes very special European to American thinking. That's the reason why most American playbooks don't work here. In Europe, it's all about trusted selling. It's trusting each other. Second piece is trust is built by talking with several people, not just by a champion. A champion can help you to get into the right door, do the first presentation with you, get some ROIs, which are anyway not true, but you know it is. So now in the US, a person can make a decision. In Europe, it's typically a gremium. Amount of people make the decision. And purchasing has here, and it's the third one, purchasing has a much more saying in Europe than in the US. Much more saying. And that's the point. So the purchase department are reporting to CFO. CFO is clear. Bring down, get the margin up and get costs down. And we are all telling time kills projects. And everybody heard about it. And the fun fact on that, it's not the POC, it's not the first call, it's not the discovery, it's not the in-between. It's exactly after the champion said yes. That is the time where you're running against the time. Budget frozen, budget allocated somewhere else. That's not happening at the champions level. That's happening somewhere higher. Okay? So you potentially run into something you don't want. So you have to push that.
I mean, maybe we just need to flip things around. Before we used to show, demonstrate. It was very frequent to hear the product sell itself. You show a demo, you do a POC, they'll buy. Mm-hmm. Now, this is almost more of a validation. The selling should be done before. You need to do your business value realization. You need to understand how people buy the contracts. Why go into an expensive POC or a long POC if you don't know what's the InfoSec requirement? Are you going to be able to meet them? I met a small startup some time ago, and they used to tell me, "Oh, we have a six months process, and then sometimes we have another 6 months of InfoSec." I said, "Well, that's probably because you haven't quite defined your ICP. You should start there. Go and ask people what's the InfoSec requirement, and then you can say, okay, I'm not selling to you, or I'm not
ICP
until you do the InfoSec."
Exactly.
So, all of this seems to, or should maybe change a bit. Start by the hardest thing first. If InfoSec is the hardest thing, do a very quick, communication on the business value. If you're interested, can we check your InfoSec policy? And can we have a meeting with the head of InfoSec to ensure that they have a path to get this signed? Because otherwise we might never get that deal closed, irrespective of the business case. In fact, I remember talking to big system integrators that were selling, computer vision AI early, like in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And they had some great use case in retail around fraud prevention, all these type of stuff. And they were telling me the business case, everybody's okay, we know, we got it, we want it. But then you had GDPR, the risk of being sued for, personal privacy, all that type of stuff. So they were starting by putting all the things that could go wrong. And they said, if you know how to resolve this, then we'll talk to you. But But for now, until this is resolved, we are not spending a dime in services and educations. Because at first they tried, they spend a lot of time, they do POC, look, we go around, we show everybody. And they said, well, that's great, but I'm not getting involved with this. From an InfoSec point of view, we're going to get sued. I'm not getting involved. And then the InfoSec guy will say, why should I sanction this? Because in the end, you might be all right, but then I'll be the one responsible for breaching this. And I'm putting my job on the line if I say yes too quickly.
Good one. Absolutely.
So,
By the way, which plays very well back to investor, there's a term in place. I'm not sure if I'm investor happiness reports. I call it this way. Okay. An investor happiness report is the deal cycle was only 6 months. You just mentioned that, right? Only 6 months. The fun fact on this, let's say these are 6 months. Let's say they're really true. You can find it out. I'm more interested when after the POC, how long does it take? Or what's the deal close rate from that? Because that gives you a clear understanding. Is the cycle now really 6 months, or 6 months from M2 or M3, whatever your cycle is after POC? Where is it? First thing. Second thing, which is very funny, because it sounds great. 6 months, we can do a lot more deals. We can do, okay, if you go to detail, that's not happening. And the fun, especially in enterprise, it's very hard in enterprise above 50, 80, 100K to do this so quick. It's hard. The second piece, which people mostly don't like when I look have my eyes on it, is how long was this sitting in MQL and SQL before? Because people like to park it there, not to have it in the pipeline. By the way, this is founder-led as well. It's not just sales or VP of sales. This is also founder-led, not to show the investor happiness slide. Okay, how great we are. The NRR shows something different, but hey, this is an investor happiness. We are great. Give us 20 million for Series A. Let's go. Okay. Yeah. That's the problem you face. So most interesting to find out if something's healthy after POC, how long does it take? Because that tells you can move quick through all the hurdles, through all the landmines and all the things. Are you capable of doing that? If you're capable of doing that, I would love to learn how you're doing that. Okay, definitely. If not, there comes the point about your contract is not signed off because something was not clarified up front. Yeah. That's for me a quick learning as an HTM advisor. Arnaud. I think you're doing the same, right?
Yeah, I think maybe we need to help people change their discovery. In fact, maybe we are a bit too traditional in our discovery. Do they have a pain? Do they have a gain? Blah blah blah. But in the end, maybe make sure you map the buying center as early as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Buying process as early as possible, and then the new risk of time killers like InfoSec. What's InfoSec? What type of data? How do they manage data? What's their, what is also, their appetite or their risk with regards to residency of data?
What's your risk to take it? You have to make a decision on enterprise deals as well. Do you want to take it? Can you handle the support? Can you handle the SLA they want?
Yeah.
Because the procurement says, I want 99.99995%, and your AWS in the back cannot hold that. It's right now 82%. So sales will tell you, sure, sign it off. Don't worry about it. Again, we talked about a dead horse the last time, right? So customer success problem. So you have to be clearly defined. You have to walk away from deals. You can kill a company. You're not fitting into the company. That comes to the point about you should do this as early as possible. So somebody like InfoSec, you said it right, or how's it called in ServiceNow? There's another one, FedRAMP certified. So if you're not FedRAMP certified, walk away. People will get back to you. FedRAMP is on-premise, so ServiceNow on-premise. So it's typically not the case here, SaaS business. So walk away. If you can run it you cannot access from the outside because you're SaaS as well, walk away. Don't try anything, walk away. Yes, the business is 15 billion big, for sure. But to survive the first customers, you invest at least $1 million to $2 million to get certified on it. So it's a risk decision. And what you said, find it out by defining clearly ICP. What is not a customer? Not just who's great, also who's not great.
Yeah.
They are not great. Done. Walk away. And
it goes even to the point that you have to if you mentioned FedRAMP, or, if you're very good in security, and go and find the regulated industries, because they will pay more
Yeah.
for that mission criticalness. So, ask for big price money. Your sales cycle is a bit longer with them, then make it expensive,
Mhm.
because it has to be worth it for you. Smaller companies that do not have that security compliance, they don't have time to go for these guys. They might try, but they'll be number 2 and number 3. So find, who's your, again, let's go back to the same thing. Who's your ideal customer profile? Not just
Right.
who's going to buy easily, but who's going to buy the best and the most money from you, or spend the most money from you.
So
I think that's,
there is, in a GTM advisor approach, there are several ways of doing it. Typically, you do TAM, SAM, SOM. Yeah, total addressable market. If you don't know about it here, the first time, TAM, total addressable market. What's for my company? What can I address in total? The service addressable market, which is typically a hunt for, which is my ICP. And then the SOM, which you can really win, service orientable market. Anyhow, I think this is outdated, especially by using another framework. It's called TRM. Okay, total relevant market, which is exactly what I hunt for. Who's not in my business? Which region do I not care about? What target personas are definitely not in my list? So you're doing exactly the opposite as well. What's great? What's not great? From regions, company size, revenue size, employee size, whatever, retail stores, whatever you sell, bring it down to the level so you have a narrowed market. Because the point is, you can spend 100K in marketing, you can spend it on the TAM, you can spend it on the SAM, you can spend it on the SOM, you can spend it on the TRM, which absolutely clearly breaks it down. And if it's not big enough, you just add a little bit more, but you bring it down to a level that you really market. And
yeah,
there you put the money in, not broad. Remember, it's like sitting in a, how should I say that? I want to find a very specific fish. I'm not hunting for all the other fishes. Why should I? So do I put food out there into the sea and just hope that somebody bites it, or just make it very specific food for that fish I want? People are doing fishing, they know exactly what I mean. So the point is, how do I get this breakdown? Because in the discovery, you can easily also disqualify that. That, by the way, also gets rid of the noise. But the problem, again, with the investors are, happiness slide, we have so many deals in the pipeline.
yeah.
TRM will drive this down to a level where the deals are promising, or not just, I have deals in the pipeline, which only 30%. The point is, we all want to achieve 40% win rate. In the TRM, you can achieve more, but you have to make really focused marketing around this. And that's the problem. So discovery means also marketing has to follow that, not just sales. Marketing. Don't give me that stuff. It's not part, and isn't agreed TRM. It's agreed target relevant market, agreed ICP behind it. Okay, clear target personas. Why do I get this lead? Because they're being nice to me. But I know I run on this for 12 months. So what is the sales doing? He's not doing anything, because he looks for the short hunts and the big hunts, and he will choose the leads he wants to care of. And by the way, this is the right decision. Marketing will never understand it, but he gives you 100 leads. I concentrate on 20 of them. Yeah, but I give you 100. Goes back to all the episodes back, right?
Yeah.
For sales, he has a limited time, and he's doing, as I said, he's being a project manager. So project manager 100 deals is something different to 20 deals I can win.
Yeah.
Right?
4 big deals. That's what you
That's the
want.
best one. I consider him 4. Don't ever let one slip.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's the point as well, right?
But you can you can manage a complex sales process on 2 or 3 customers. You're
Yeah.
not going to manage it on 50 customers.
No. That's the reason for you will
So
always,
yeah,
as enterprise sales, concentrate,
yeah,
focus, 100%. So
exactly.
can you, that's not the game of a sales VP, say, hey, you can concentrate on this 3, 4, I'm fine. What are we doing for the other 4? Can we move them on?
Yeah.
Now comes the hard part. Sales never gives anything up. But I get it from marketing. I don't want to give it up. It's not your choice anymore. Close that 4. You can
Yeah.
make your business with it. So this is something very hard for a VP of sales to take care of, because if they see something promising, they have to take deals away because they know they cannot handle it anymore. And they will potentially not take care of it
There are
anymore.
ways of doing it. I mean, there's ways to
Correct.
doing it, which is, good for everybody. I think it requires, by the way, it's like,
Always this
you
double
talked
compensation
about,
thingy.
trust. Trust has to be outside with the customer. It has to be inside with your team. It's
See the
sometimes
CEO,
difficult.
guys, just in the podcast, you see the CEO now. He talks about spiff, double compensation, and all the kind. He doesn't want to tell it, but that's exactly what it is.
Yeah, okay, maybe we'll have to do something on compensation, because in
Go
fact,
on.
I don't quite like the spiff sometimes, because well, I do like them, but when they are not regular, because
Correct. Correct.
if you start motivating people regularly outside of their standard comp plan, then you create again another wrong behavior. People waiting to get the spiff to do something.
Maybe they're happy with it, and they're not making their quota, but they get the spiff in place.
Yeah.
I
So
saw that moment as well. So that's a great episode for something else called compensation.
that's
To be honest, hey, we paid
that's
almost spiff. We paid, something like that. Just made it up. We paid a lot of spiff, but we didn't get revenue. Nice. Perfect. We got some customers in the new business. Nice one. What are your
so,
free takes on the whole thing? What are the free takes you want to give people away?
so
Because you talked already 31 minutes about it. Again, you're
yeah.
fast.
I think we need to think about, being in your discovery. Let's change a little bit the way the discovery we do sometime, like quick discovery using some band technology, but let's think a little about it. And I think every customer or every seller should look at what's the sales motions, what are the critical points, and personalize your discovery based on the critical aspect of your sales process, and try to move every validations of the hard stuff earlier in your sales process. So I think that's the first thing that I would do. Make sure also that, part of your discovery, you have very well defined buying centers: technical, commercials, infosecs, procurement, all of them. Again, look at your ICP, list them all. Make sure you touch them as early as possible. Sometimes it's good to introduce yourself before you ask something, So if you've met procurement early, they can give you a bit of nuggets, but it requires obviously that your champions are happy to do that. I think, again, we talked about the project manager. So maybe the second recommendation is treat the sale, and especially the closing part, as a project. Yeah. Mutual action plan with your champions and the different people. Are we going to tick that box? What's the plan? What's the outcome? And so like that, you have a very well defined closing plan with your customers. So I think that's the second one.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we touched about this, but never stop selling until the ink is dry on the paper. So remind people why they're doing this. So be always reminding them of the business outcome, so you keep them motivated, because selling and closing is hard. So they need to know and be reminded why they are going through all that pain. So these are my
Correct.
3 recommendations today.
Great. I like this closing playbook, and nobody talks about, but there's a playbook in place. You're absolutely right. So great. We're at the end. This episode has surfaced something you recognize in your own late stage pipeline, which I guess it does. The place to start is a structured look at where your enterprise deals are selling and what's driving it. I give you already something which is after POC. How long does it take? Arnaud and I both run GTM assessments for B2B SaaS teams, going for exactly this inflection point: the assessment maps to motion, the stage discipline, the ICP, what not to do, the TRM, and the closing capability. So you know what you're actually working before you commit to a board number, if you don't want to do an investor happiness slide. If this conversation was useful, share it with the CRO, VP of sales in your network who is currently watching a late stage deal slow down in ways they cannot fully explain. Thanks for listening to Revenue Architect Surgery. Real revenue leaders, real GTM failures, no spin. We see you in 2 weeks for episode 6. And this one I like a lot. Nobody owned the number, but everybody owned the excuse. It's very funny to see that part. Have a good one. Thanks, Arnaud.
Cheers. Bye-bye.